So, Golden Dome, the Golden Dome. First of all, do you have any idea how they came up with that name?
Well, Trump loves gold, and so I just assumed this was his continuing fixation on the color gold, the golden age.
Okay,
It's all
well,
it's all gold, man.
it's the golden era, and now we've got the dome. Look, obviously, it's a bit of a riff on Israel's Iron Dome.
Yeah.
Ours is going to be shinier,
Yes.
but is
And bigger.
it? Let's start it. Yeah, and bigger. Of course, it is. But at the 30,000 foot level, right? I mean, actually, we're going to be above 30,000 foot with this thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
is it even feasible?
Well, the scientists that I speak with, I've been talking to these guys since I wrote the book. A lot of them were sort of on background sources for me. They're very skeptical generally of missile defense of the kind that we're talking about. I am not skeptical, obviously. I think we have the technology to do it. It's a question of political will. We finally have a politician in Donald Trump who wants to do it. So he's going to point the direction, and the scientific community is going to have to catch up. This is what, by the way, JFK did, right? 1962, he goes to Rice University, gives a speech saying we're going to go to the moon in 10 years. Everybody's looking around going, WTF, what is he talking about? And almost to the day, a decade later, we were on the moon. Because of the political buy-in. And I think something similar is happening here, especially because everybody in D.C. is aware that China and Russia notably have capabilities that can hit our homeland now. And more importantly, even some of these radical terrorist groups like the Houthis apparently have a Palestine 2 hypersonic weapon that's threatening the Israelis. So we don't want to live in a world where we don't have any kind of defense.
Yeah, well, okay. First of all, Brandon, I'm going to correct you. Back in the early '60s, when Kennedy was announcing the moonshot, nobody said WTF. No, nobody said WTF back then.
Yes, well,
maybe somebody might have said LOL, and that's it. That's the sum total of my knowledge of those little phrases. Anyway, but you mentioned something very interesting, which let's pick up on that. You said that. Now we have a president who's got the willingness, right, to push for this, because prior to that there wasn't the political will. Well, if you step back and you say, okay, what's the concept? The concept is creating a shield that defends the homeland from missile attack. Why was this a problem for previous politicians? What was the problem regarding political will? Was it
at the time, the first time it was mentioned really was the Reagan administration. Remember Star Wars, the Strategic Defense Initiative. Back then, the technology was really not quite mature yet. So the scientific community was able to kind of push back, and the State Department types who don't want to upset the apple cart diplomatically did not want to upend mutual assured destruction by making nuclear weapons basically obsolete. So they were able to kind of drag that process out and not get it. But now the technology has matured. We have directed energy capability, however rudimentary. We now have more complex systems that can go at different levels in and out of the atmosphere to shoot these things down. We have better sensor capabilities today. So the technology has finally caught up with the dream. And so the idea here is that we are going to create a comprehensive layered defensive network. And they're going to have to come along with us, these diplomats and these scientists, because they're allocating $175 billion for it. So that's too much money to ignore. So it's going to happen, I think, just because of the amount of money they're throwing at it.
Okay. Before I go to the next question, you mentioned directed energy. Can you, just for the benefit of our viewers, can you explain that without using lots of big words?
Big lasers, basically. Big energy weapons. Think Star Wars.
Beams.
Yeah, the giant freaking lasers. Yeah. Now, we have had a lot of problems. The Chinese are actually ahead of us on directed energy weapons. The Russians might be on par, if not ahead of us. But the idea is that by dumping this kind of money, $175 billion into the program, whatever issues there are with that particular technology will be overcome. This is something that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has explicitly noted, along with hypersonic weapons, that he wants his Defense Department to get done. And so when you have that kind of level of political buy-in and that kind of money floating around, they're probably going to figure it out. Now, whether or not it's going to be the defense contractors taking a cut off the top for themselves, that's a whole nother story. But I think we're going to get there politically and technologically a lot sooner than people realize.
I'm shocked that you would even imply that defense contractors might take a little something off the top.
I actually think we could probably do it for cheaper than $175 billion, but of course they're not gonna let that happen. But
No. Yeah. I think look, I've said this before. I think throwing out $175 billion as an estimate, I think is a very conservative number.
I think so frankly. Too. It'll that might be why Trump wants $1 trillion defense budget. That might be the real reason, is we're going to space, baby. So
yeah, there you go. Now, okay, talk to me about this. There's a lot here, right? But if you can, up to this point, talk to me about the defense system that we've had, right? The missile defense system that we've had. Why it is, if it is, why it's inadequate today, and what the Golden Dome would primarily be focused on in terms of defense.
Well, the first thing I would argue is that it's been inadequate for decades, going back even to the Cold War. Everybody kind of knew our air defenses when it came to intercepting nuclear weapons. We could do it, but not the way that our defense planners really wanted to be able to do it. The costs involved were always high. It's very technical. Think about it. You're basically shooting a bullet with a bullet. Okay, that's basically what you're doing. Is that you're firing a missile at an incoming missile. And so that's always been very complicated for anyone to do. So this has always been a problem. And our current system is basically very rudimentary, the ballistic missile defense shield. We don't have enough of those interceptors. They're very expensive to make. After the Cold War ended, the political class sort of didn't care anymore because there were no more enemies. And so we're playing catch up in that regard. Okay. What the Golden Dome is it's not just ground-based and sea-based interceptors. It's now also space-based. So we're going from the ground up and from space down. And so the idea is it's going to be very layered, and it's going to have multiple advanced sensors with multiple points of intercept. And obviously, the more eyes on a target and the more capacity to intercept a target, even if it's moving fast, the greater the likelihood you can prevent it from hitting its intended destination or its intended target.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.